Namami Buddham Gunasaгаrantam Santa Sada Huntu Sukhi Aberam Kayo Jinguncho Sakalo Dugando Gacchante Sabbe Maranam Mahanche Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Samanta Cakkavalesu Atra Gaccantu Devatam Sandhammang Munirajassa Sunantu Sagga Mokkadang Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayam Badanta Vidya Uppatatang Setta Avidya Nipatatang Varam Sangho Pavajamananam Buddho Pavadatang Varoti. Venerable members of the Mahasangha, friends in Dhamma, today we are going to discuss one of the discourses which comes in Samyutta Nikaya named Vutthi Sutta, the discourse of rain. In this discourse, the Blessed One explains four important things. Buddha says, Vidya Uppatatang Setta. Vidya means wisdom. Wisdom is the best of things that rise up. Avidya Nipatatang Vara. Ignorance excels among the things that fall down. Sangho Pavajamananam. Sangha, the Buddha's disciples. The Sangha is the best of things that go forth. Buddho Pavadatang Varo. The best speaker is the Buddha. The most excellent of speakers is the Buddha. This is the summary of the discourse, Vutthi Sutta, the discourse of rain. In this discourse, we especially hope to explain wisdom and ignorance. The main topic in Buddhism is that wisdom. All the doctrines that Buddha explained for 45 years can be summarized in one topic, which is wisdom. Wisdom is the gem of men. Therefore, Buddha gave us the knowledge how we understand the world as it is. In this situation, we have to understand wisdom, and the opposite of wisdom is that ignorance too. Buddha says, from the beginning to end on the path of liberation, the four things should be realized, should be practiced for wisdom. They are Kalyanamitta Asraya, associating with good friends, Dhamma Savana, listening to Dhamma, Yoniso Manasikara, wise consideration, wise reflection, and Patipatti, practice. These four things are important. These four things help us to develop wisdom on the path of liberation. When we have good qualities, human values, we associate with good friends. When we meet good friends, then they explain us the nature of the world, especially the Four Noble Truths. The more we associate with the good friends, the more we realize the Buddha's message. That is the real benefit that we receive throughout associating good friends. First of all, we should understand the nature of ignorance. Ignorance means when we see something, when we hear something, when we experience something through our senses, we think that there is a world outside. There is a material world outside at the moment when we understand something. This is the main thing, main characteristic of ignorance. On the other side, when we see something, when we hear something, we think that there is something before we experience, and also after we experience, something remains. This is the nature of ignorance. As the result of this ignorance, mental formations arise. That is why Buddha says, avidya paccaya sankhara. Through ignorance are conditioned mental formations, karma formations. What are the karma formations? Punyavi sankhara, meritorious karma formations. Apunyavi sankhara, demeritorious karma formations. And ananjavi sankhara, infertible mental formations. When we are ignorant about the world, suddenly our entire life, the body and mind, or five aggregates or senses change. This is the nature of our life. Whether we like or not, whether we know or not, this is the reality. When we think there is a material thing outside, as soon as we experience something, suddenly our mind is fixed outside world. Then when outside world changes, then automatically we get suffering. In this situation, Buddha has explained his message gradually. Buddha's message has a gradual pattern. First of all, when Buddha explains something, he follows some gradual introduction. He gives us gradual introduction. Dana kata, sila kata, sagga kata, kamanang adinavan, like that. Buddha's message is like the ocean. The ocean gradually deepens. Buddha's message also like that. First of all, the Buddha explains the three meritorious deeds: Dana, Sila, and Bhavana. Practicing generosity, moral conduct, and especially loving kindness meditation. When we practice loving kindness meditation, our entire life changes. According to our loving kindness thoughts, our entire body and mind change. Having this spirituality, when we go forward, we meet the path that leads to getting rid of suffering completely. Here, Buddha explains the way how we overcome suffering. Then we have the knowledge of wisdom. Wisdom in Buddhism is realized in three ways. One of them is Suttameya Panya, the wisdom based on hearing or learning. And Chintameya Panya, wisdom based on contemplating or thinking. And Bhavanameya Panya, wisdom based on mental culture or meditation. At the beginning, we should have Suttameya Panya, the knowledge of hearing, the wisdom of hearing. This is very important. First of all, we should understand how suffering arises and how we can overcome suffering. When we are ignorant, when our mind is fixed outside the world, we have the suffering of decay, aging, sickness, death, and suffering and separation. This is the nature of ignorance. On the other side, wisdom means when we experience something, suddenly we can understand now material world has ceased. Then our mind is not fixed outside world. Suddenly we look at inside mind. At the moment we understand, our mind also arises and ceases at the moment. This is the highest knowledge that we gain throughout listening to what the Exalted One explained. Here we can understand whether we go on the path of suffering or whether we go on the path of liberation. When our mind is fixed outside the world, then suffering follows us. Even though we do some good deeds, material deeds, meritorious deeds, still we are not away from suffering because of ignorance. If we want to overcome ignorance, Buddha says, avidyayatveva asesa viraga nirodha sankhara nirodho. Through complete cessation of ignorance, mental formations cease. Through complete cessation of mental formations, consciousness consist with ignorance ceases. This is the path of liberation. When we are ignorant, we are in the sansaric circle, avidya pacca sankhara, sankhara pacca vijnanam, vijnana pacca nam rupam, like that. Then we are going around the world until we receive suffering. This is the worldly path, the sansaric circle. And also, when we want to, if we want to overcome suffering or sansaric circle, we should understand clearly how we can overcome suffering. Then we overcome ignorance. Avidyayatveva asesa viraga nirodha sankhara nirodho. Through the complete cessation of ignorance, mental formations consist with ignorance gradually cease. This is the liberation path that we'll understand through listening. This is the very first stage of wisdom, Sutta jnana, the knowledge of hearing or knowledge based on hearing or learning. We receive this message because of our previous good karmas. With the association of good friendship, we receive this message, then we can decide whether we go around the sansaric circle or we overcome the sansaric circle. Then we go to the next level, Chintamaya Panya, the knowledge based on thinking or contemplating. With this understanding, again and again, we think this situation not only when we meditate but every moment from morning to night. When we do something, when we go here and there, when we work, whatever we do, we always think this reality. What happens to our life? When we see something, we understand this form has already ceased. I understand this form through my mind or mind consciousness. When we hear something, We understand that now I understand these sounds through my mind consciousness, not through my ear consciousness. Again and again we think this reality. When we don't think about this reality, we can practice other good karmas, meritorious deeds, such as loving kindness meditation. We can contemplate on thus may all beings be well, happy and peaceful. When we don't practice loving kindness meditation, we can think about our virtue or moral conduct that we practice as 5 precepts. If we don't think about our 5 precepts, we can practice generosity. We can offer something to others. If we don't practice generosity, we can think about what we have already practiced as generosity. It is the Chaganupassana, the contemplation of generosity. These are the things that we can do in our day-to-day life for our inner peace. But we should give the priority to practice the insight meditation. What is the insight meditation? Vidarsana Bhavana or Vipassana Bhavana. We reflect on impermanence. Our I is impermanent. Form is impermanent. I consciousness is impermanent. I contact is impermanent. Like that, we contemplate on this reality again and again. What is the meaning of impermanence? The I arises and ceases at the moment. I means not just the physical I, but the ability of seeing. The I that Buddha says arises at the moment with the conditions according to our present mental condition. That present I didn't come to the present from the past. The present I will not go to future from the present. It arises and ceases at the moment. According to our present mental condition, I arises. According to our present I, form arises. When those things are together, I consciousness arises. Everything arises at the moment. It didn't come to the present from the past. It will not go to future from the present. It arises and ceases at the moment. Then we think about ear is impermanent, sound is impermanent, ear consciousness is impermanent, ear contact is impermanent. Like that, we can contemplate on these 6 senses again and again as impermanent. This is the 3rd stage of wisdom, which is Bhavanameya Panya. The very first one is the Suttameya Panya, wisdom based on hearing or learning. The second one is Chintameya Panya, wisdom based on thinking or contemplating. And Bhavanameya Panya, wisdom based on meditation, especially insight meditation. When we practice insight meditation, first of all, we concentrate our mind in the present moment with a particular wholesome object. There are 40 meditation techniques that Buddha has explained in Buddhism that we can practice to tranquil our mind. We can practice such as loving kindness meditation, breathing meditation, Buddhanussati Bhavana, like that. We are able to contemplate on these meditation techniques for our tranquility. When mind is tranquil, then we are able to reflect on impermanence. We reflect on impermanence about our internal senses or external objects or consciousnesses, or finally we reflect on impermanence about 5 aggregates. Whatever we experience through our senses, it means 5 aggregates arise at the moment. Rupa, form, Vedana, feeling, Sanya, perception, Sankhara, mental formations, and Vijnana, consciousness. These 5 things are invisible, but always these 5 things arise with the conditions. When conditions cease, these 5 aggregates cease at the moment. The very first experience of 5 aggregates is neutral. It is neither pleasant nor unpleasant. It is neither wholesome nor unwholesome. It is just a result of our previous actions. When we are ignorant, we take these 5 aggregates as mine, as me, as myself. This is the cause of suffering. Then 5 aggregates come to the clinging of 5 aggregates. We have clinging with these 5 aggregates when we are ignorant. It means we think still these 5 things are here. But actually the first experience has already ceased. Because of our ignorance, we think still it is happening. That is why suffering arises. If we have this understanding, what do we need to do? We should contemplate on this reality again and again. In our day-to-day life, when we meet a person, we should suddenly understand, now I recognize this person or thing through my mind consciousness. We should understand the first experience has already ceased. When we hear something, when we taste something, when we smell something, when we touch something, every moment, whatever we think, we always understand something with some forms. But those forms are not in the physical world at the moment what we experience at the first experience. But still we are in the ignorance. Therefore, we have to think this reality again and again. That is why we should practice insight meditation, having moral conduct and discipline in our speech and behavior, and also we always should practice insight meditation or vipassana bhavana, reflecting on impermanence of 5 aggregates. Then rupa means it is not just the physical or material forms, but sounds, smell, the taste, everything can be summarized into the group of form, rupa skandha. That rupa skandha arises at the moment. It arises and ceases at the moment. And the second one is that vedana or feeling. Feeling also arises at the moment because of contact. When contact arises, feeling arises. That feeling doesn't go to the future continuously. It arises and ceases at the moment. It is not mine, it is not me, it is not myself. It is just a result of some reasons or causes. Sanya, perception. Sanya also arises because of contact. When contact ceases, perception also gradually ceases. And mental formations, sankhara. Meritorious karma formations, demeritorious karma formations, infertable karma formations, they arise at the moment with some conditions, which those conditions cease. Immediately they cease at the moment. Consciousness. Consciousness arises because of mentality and corporeality. When mentality and corporeality cease, consciousness also ceases at the moment. then we see the world like an empty village. Buddha says, Sunyo Gamo Avekkasu. He who practices this path, he who reflects on impermanence, sees the world as an empty village. It means, even though we think there is a material world outside, actually there is a material world, but when we understand, when we recognize something, the first experience has ceased. If we find there is a material world, it means we are in the samsaric circle, we are in the suffering. Be sure that this is the nature of the world. If we trust, if we are confident in what the Buddha taught, this is the place where should respect and confident in the Buddha's message. Saddhati Tathagatassa Bodhin, we should be confident in what the Buddha taught. This is the place where we should be confident in. When we meet a world, material world, it means we are in ignorance. When we contemplate on that the physical world has already ceased, then we are in wisdom, what the Buddha taught. Our success depends on our happiness. Our happiness depends on getting rid of suffering. Getting rid of suffering completely depends on purifying our mind from ignorance. Whenever we are ignorant, it means we are in the samsaric circle. Whenever we practice insight meditation with the foundation of mindfulness, being aware of our body and mind, at the moment we think the world is impermanent. It arises and ceases at the moment. We can never reach the material world with the experience at the present moment. We always experience the world when the world has ceased. This is the place where we should be confident in, and also we should contemplate on this reality again and again in our day-to-day life. For that, we should practice a very direct path, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. Buddha says, Ujuko nama somaggo, abhaya nama sadhisa. The Noble Eightfold Path is the gradual path. It is the direct path. And also, the Noble Eightfold Path is the fearless path. When we listen to Dhamma and when we understand the liberation, how we overcome the suffering, then we meet the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. First of all, we gain the right understanding, Sammaditthi. When we have this understanding, Buddha says, Sammaditthi pure javang. Right understanding should be first. Right understanding leads us to going away from suffering. Now we know how suffering arises and how suffering ceases. When our mind is fixed outside world or even inside, it means we are in the samsaric circle. Whenever we reflect on impermanence, then we can be free from samsaric circle. With this understanding, we again and again practice this path. The second step is that right intention, right thoughts, samma sankappa. We practice loving kindness meditation. We go away from sensual pleasure little by little. We practice renunciation. And also samma vacha, right speech, abstaining from false speech abstaining from slandering, abstaining from harsh speech, abstaining from useless words. We have discipline in our speech. When we say something, we think again and again whether it is correct. The next step is that Samma Kammanta. We abstain from killing beings, abstain from stealing and sexual misconduct. We keep our discipline in behavior. Especially in this level, we practice 5 precepts. The next step is that Samma Ajiva. When we earn something for our livelihood, we always earn something righteously and honestly. Right effort. We always train our mind to overcome negativities and practice good deeds. That is right effort. Sammasati, right mindfulness. Always we practice mindfulness, being aware of our body and mind. We always contemplate on body. What happens to our body? When we contemplate on body or when we practice mindfulness in our body, we understand this physical body arises because of nutrition or food that we take. This is the result of food. As the result of cessation of food or nutrition, this body also ceases. This is not a particular person. This body doesn't belong to any particular person. Vedananupassana, the contemplation of feeling. Feeling arises at the moment with the condition of contact. When contact ceases, feeling also ceases. This feeling is not permanent, it is impermanent. Chittanupassana, the contemplation of consciousness. There are 6 consciousnesses: eye consciousness, ear consciousness, like that. There are 6 consciousnesses. One consciousness is one time. It is also impermanent. It arises and ceases at the moment with the conditions. And Dhammanupassana, contemplation of mental formations. Mental formations or karma formations arise at the moment with the condition. They also cease at the moment. As the result of practicing mindfulness meditation, again and again we keep our attention in our body and mind, and also we reflect on the root of these 4 areas, and we contemplate on arising and ceasing of these 4 areas: Kaya, Vedana, Chitta, Dhamma, with details, 5 aggregates. As the result of practicing mindfulness for a long time, little by little we concentrate our mind in a particular wholesome object. When mind is concentrated, we reflect on impermanence again and again. Everything is impermanent, everything is dissatisfactory, everything is selfless. This is the reality we should understand. As the result of practicing this path, we can understand day by day we are able to overcome ignorance or delusion. What is the delusion? We don't depend on outside material worlds. We suddenly understand, even though there is an external world, it has already ceased. When I recognize something, the first experience has ceased. Now we look at inside. When the ordinary people look at outside, when they experience, the Buddha's followers, we suddenly look at inside. What happens to my mind when we look at outside, when we experience outside through our 5 senses. 5 consciousnesses. If we are able to increase the duration of seeing this reality with wisdom, this is the real success in our life. And also, we give the priority to practice insight meditation, which is the real cause of getting rid of suffering. As the result of practicing this path, we understand little by little we overcome greed and anger. If we know that the physical world has already ceased, we have nothing to attach or even detach. We are neutral when we look at outside. When we look at outside, suddenly we see inside. What happens to my mind? Whenever we have attachment or detachment, whenever we have greed or anger, we are shy. Because already we know the Buddha's message. When we are ignorant, we are very shy. We are afraid of having ignorance because ignorance is the reason of suffering. Whenever we have a slight ignorance, it means we are not away from suffering. When we are ignorant, greed and anger arise at the moment. The more we are ignorant, the more desire and anger arise. The more we practice wisdom, reflecting on impermanence, the more we reduce delusion and the more we overcome greed and anger. In this situation, we practice good deeds in the mundane level and also especially we develop our mind inside meditation. As the result of this path, we are able to make an unshakable mind. Among the people, those who are angry, we create a mind without anger. That is why Buddha says, let's live happily without anger among the people, those who are angry. Again, Buddha says, let's live happily without seeking sensual pleasure among the people, those who are seeking sensual pleasure. Let's live happily without mental illnesses among the people, those who are mentally ill. These are the real successes in our life. Usually we think that if we have more money than others, we are successful. If we have more education, more degrees or master degrees, we are successful. If we have more relatives and friends who are well educated, we are successful. Actually, according to Buddhism, this is not the real measurement of our success. Our success that we can see is that among the ordinary people who have mental disorders, mental illnesses, defilements, if we are able to keep a pure mind without ignorance, this is the real success of our life. For that, we have to practice this Dhamma again and again. As the result of practicing this path, we can gain the highest blessing in our life. Puttassa loka dhammehi chittang yassana kampati asokang virajang khemam etang mangalamuttamam. Making an unshakable mind among the worldly condition is the highest blessing that we can gain in our life. What are the worldly conditions? There are 8 worldly conditions. Labha alabha, gain and loss, yasa ayasa, honor and dishonor, prasansa ninda, praise and blame, sapaduk, happiness and misery. Among these 8 worldly conditions, if we can make an unshakable mind, this is the highest blessing that we can gain in our valuable life. This is the way how we can succeed our spiritual life. For that, Buddha has explained the gradual path. At the beginning, we should be grateful to the world with a grateful heart. We should practice generosity. And also we practice sila or virtue or moral conduct, discipline in our speech and behavior. And also we should develop loving kindness thoughts as much as we can. As the result of practicing loving kindness meditation, we think the world like our children. When we meet a person, we think that person like our only son or daughter. This is the highest attitude of practicing loving kindness meditation. If we have this highest attitude, it means our entire life changes. With this attitude, we go forward with the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths should be realized by the wise. What is the Four Noble Truths? The very first one is the Dukkha Satya, the Noble Truth of suffering. The very first experience that we receive through our senses arising of five aggregates, very neutral situation. That is the Dukkha Satya, the Noble Truth of suffering. When we have no clear understanding about the first experience, we are going to cling in these five things. That is the cause of suffering, the noble truth of the origin of suffering. If we can understand this reality and also if we can see the cessation of these five aggregates, we can go to the cessation of suffering. This is the noble truth of the cessation of suffering. If we want to realize this situation, we should practice the path, the Noble Eightfold path, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, virtue, concentration, and wisdom. In short, when we practice the Noble Eightfold path, this is the fearless path. This is the direct path. When we practice Noble Eightfold path, then we have no fear, no doubt, no problems. In our day-to-day life, we can see the results. When we practice the Noble Eightfold path, our all actions and behavior and speech are correct. Nobody or nothing can disturb us because we have practiced the fearless path. Day by day, we go forward, overcoming suffering from our life. Finally, Buddha says, as a wise person, the highest qualities that we can practice are that concentration and insight meditation. Our real success depends on our happiness. Our happiness completely depends on the duration of practicing concentration or tranquil meditation and insight meditation. Tranquility meditation means concentration meditation or samatha bhavana. Using a meditation technique, we keep our attention in the present moment for a long time. Then we can overcome hindrances which disturb our peace of mind. 5 hindrances, such as sensual pleasure, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, skeptical doubts. These are the hindrances that disturb our peace of mind. Overcoming these 5 hindrances, we go to the next level by practicing insight meditation. We directly focus on ignorance, reflecting on impermanence. Then we can develop wisdom to the maximum level. Buddha says, Vidya upatatan setta. Wisdom is the thing, very special thing which rise up. Vidya upatatan setta. Wisdom is the best of things that rise up. Avidya nipatatan vara. Ignorance excels among the things that fall down. Sango pavajamananang. The Sangha is the best of things that go forth. Sangha, the Buddha's disciples, they walk in this world explaining this message. Buddho pavadatang varo. The most excellent of speakers is the Buddha. Buddha explained the noble truth. Therefore, he is the best of speakers. This is the summary of this discourse that we hope to discuss. Vutthi Sutta, the discourse of rain. In this discourse, especially Buddha explains the four things. The very first one is the wisdom. The second one is the ignorance. And the Sangha and the Buddha, who is the best speaker in this world. As Buddhist followers, we are so fortunate. We know the way how suffering arises and how suffering ceases. Whenever we are ignorant, then suffering arises. Whenever we are mindful and wise, we can overcome suffering or samsaric circle. For that, we have to gain the knowledge about the Four Noble Truths, and also we should practice the Noble Eightfold Path as much as we can. Whenever we are on the path of liberation, practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, then we can be confident in our life and also we can be happy about our life. Because day by day, we are going forward, reducing suffering from our life. It means day by day, we develop our inner peace, happiness, emancipation, liberation, freedom, which is the main purpose of everyone who was born in this world. For that, I wish you all the best. If you have any question about this sermon, you can ask now. Dear friends in Dhamma, you can ask any question if you have. If not, we are going to finish this discussion, Dhamma sermon. We have been preaching for 4 weeks, and this is our final sermon, and we are going to complete our series of Dhamma conducted by the Leicester Buddhist Vihara with Bhante Sadhananda. I pay my gratitude to the Bhante and the community of the temple, and also by the power of these meritorious deeds and spiritual development that we practice, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May our departed relatives also receive this spiritual energy. May they enhance their spiritual power. And finally, may they also attain the final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's say, Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. By the power of this spiritual energy, may guardian deities and angels also receive this spiritual energy. May they keep their eye on you too. May they protect you. May they also attain the final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's transfer these merits to guardian deities and angels too. Akasatta ca bhummatta deva naga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu sasanam ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු දේශනං ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ත්වං සදා. By the power of all these wholesome activities, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to you. May no problems come to you. May no difficulties come to you. May your all righteous wishes meet with success. Finally, may all of us attain the final bliss of liberation. With that intention, let's say Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu. Dukkam pantaca niddukkam Bhayam pantaca nidbhayam Sokam pantaca nissokam Hontu sambe pipanino.